you very much for the opportunity to share with those folks that are watching C-SPAN, and hopefully there are many, some of the issues that really confront America today. We just heard an hour discussion on the fate of the American family, and it comes at that issue from one specific point of view and one specific section of the total problem. And that has to do with the issue of marriage and how we define marriage here in the United States. But there's also another way to, and other very, very important issues that define the fate of the American family. And I'd like to take that issue up tonight in the context of the economy. The American family is faced with many, many challenges. One of the most significant challenges is income, jobs. How can an American family make it in America today? What does it take for an American family to make it? One of the most compelling charts that I've seen over these last several months is this one, which really describes the fate of the American family compared to the fate of the top 1% of Americans. We've seen an enormous shift in the income and the wealth in America over the last 30 years, largely because of governmental policies. This blue line indicates how well the super wealthy are doing. They've seen nearly a 370% increase in their annual income. Their wealth would see a similar enormous increase. Down here on the bottom are the rest of Americans, the other 99%. If you took all of this together, you would see that the bottom 50% have seen very, very little increase in their annual income. And most of that increase is due to both husbands and wives working simultaneously. This is the challenge for the American family. How do they make it in America? When in America we've seen an enormous decline in the great American manufacturing sector, where the middle class really succeeded. And so tonight what I'd like to talk about with my colleagues who will shortly be joining me is how we can make it in America by once again making it in America. We can do this. In America, manufacturing matters. American manufacturing has been in deep trouble for the last 20 years. That trouble has been caused by a variety of issues, some of which are beyond the control of anybody in this nation, and certainly any member of Congress or the Senate and the presidency. But a far greater part of the American manufacturing issue has been governmental policy. Let's see if we can lay the foundation for a discussion on what it takes to once again make it in America. This chart shows what's happened to American manufacturing since 1975. In the 1970s, American manufacturing peaked out somewhere just under 20 million American jobs. Those were the good days. That's when the American middle class was at its peak, when more Americans were enjoying the greatest share of the wealth in this country. That was the time when America was at its penultimate strength, when we had the greatest economy anywhere in the world. Beginning in that year, in the mid-70s, we have seen a steady decline of the American manufacturing base. We've seen that decline for a number of reasons. But what we need to understand is that through the 70s and into the 80s and even the 90s, even though there was a slight decline from some 19 down to 17 million manufacturing jobs, it was in the century of 2000 to 2010 that the great decline took place. We are now down to just over 11 million manufacturing jobs in this country. Why did this happen? Why did we see this great decline? Well, as we try to answer that question, we need to also understand that there was a great increase in 1, 2, and 3 sectors of the American economy, but it was not matched by the manufacturing sector. The manufacturing sector was headed downward from 19 million to just over 11 million jobs. At the same time, the American economy was on fire. The finance, insurance, and real estate economy took off in the United States. I think all of us have heard the term financial engineering. Now, I'm a graduate of Harvard Business School. Financial engineering was their shtick. That's what they wanted to do. It wasn't over at the engineering or the nuclear engineering or the chemical engineering. It was across the river at the business school and at every other business school in America. If you wanted to make it in America, you had to be a financial engineer. And so we saw the FIRE economy grow. Corporate finance, not corporate finance, but Wall Street finance, insurance, real estate. And throughout the 90s, it peaked out. And the best and the brightest of America decided that they didn't want to be in manufacturing. After all, that was some sort of a dirty, greasy job. They wanted to be financial engineers in real estate, insurance, and Wall Street finance. We know where that got us. We got that. What that did to us was get us into the great bubble of 2000 to 2007 and the great crash that occurred. Financial engineering turned out to be nothing but paper. And we're not talking about dollars here. We're talking about worthless paper. And that worthless paper nearly crashed the world economy. So there we have it. We became financial engineers rather than chemical engineers, manufacturing, and the rest. So where did our money go? Where did the American wealth go? As we saw the decline of the jobs in manufacturing, we also saw the rise of imports. If you go back to the year 1976, you'll see that we were running a very small trade deficit. We were importing and exporting approximately the same amount. What we were exporting was American-made equipment. We were exporting food that had been processed, food that had been grown. We were exporting machinery and machine tools and airplanes. We were the great exporter of the world. And then government policy began to shift it. And we wound up here in 2008, the great exporters of American money, the great exporters of American wealth. We need to turn this around. We've seen a slight improvement here in the most recent years. But all of this red is basically China. What's happened is that the United States has given up its manufacturing power to China and to a few other countries. We can see this in certain industries. For example, the automobile industry.